Hello and welcome to the Daily on Defense Weekly Briefing. I'm Dave Brown and I'm joined by Jacqueline Klimas, and Jamie McIntyre is on assignment at the Pentagon where he is finding out the very latest on the refugee ban, and he just tweeted that Defense Secretary Jim Mattis is requesting a list of categories of Iraqis to be exempted from the travel ban, and that would include interpreters. And this actually squares with a lot of reporting you've been doing over the past few months. There is a lot of interest in these Iraqis who have risked their life to help U.S. service members and are now counting on the United States to come and help them. What does your reporting show you?
Yeah, I think lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are going to be really happy to hear that the Secretary has taken an interest in this and is trying to fix what they see as an issue with this executive order. We've seen lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. In the Senate, it's been Senator John McCain and Senator Jeanne Shaheen who have been kind of leading the charge. In the House, Seth Moulton has been one of the key people. He's a former Marine himself, and has worked with interpreters who he says, saved his life, and now we should be not abandoning these people. And there's the issue of they, in exchange for working with the U.S., they were promised that they and their families could come here because many of them are still overseas facing threats for their partnership with the U.S., and this executive order would have abandoned them.
Right,
there.
and of course, Iraq is a key ally, if not the most important ally for the United States in the fight against ISIS. And as we saw the reports just Monday morning, it looks like the Iraqi parliament is doing what's being called a reciprocity ban. We're saying that if our citizens cannot come to the United States, you Americans cannot come to the United States as well. This raises all kinds of questions about U.S. service members, journalists, contractors, everybody who's taking part in the ISIS fight.
I think the contractors piece of that is especially interesting because as we've seen the number of U.S. troops go down, we've seen the use of contractors go up. So what does it mean if they can't come into the country?
Right, and as John McCain pointed out this weekend, we have Iraqi pilots who are in Tucson, Arizona right now training on F-16s as part of this training mission to bulk up the Iraqi Air Force. So there's any number of questions that need to be sorted out after kind of a weekend of chaos. But as we're seeing, speaking of John McCain, he spoke this weekend about Trump's order that reshuffles the National Security Council. Two important points in this one. First is the extent to which the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the Director of National Intelligence is in on those meetings. It looks like they'll probably be there, but the issue is the Principals Committee, which are all the main players who come together. And the order caused a little bit of confusion because it says they're invited to be there when the subject matter pertains to their areas of expertise. Kind of hard to imagine what sort of things they could be talking about that doesn't pertain to it, but I think you can expect they'll be in the room. So before this framework was put in place, we were working off the presidential directive that Obama put out when his first acts in office was February 2009, which actually designated the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the Director of National Intelligence were members of the Principals Committee. Now, with this Trump rule, this appears to affect Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Joe Dunford, and the Director of National Intelligence, the person nominated to that is former Indiana Senator Dan Coats. It says that they will be invited to the Principals Committee when the information that they're talking about actually pertains to their area. And now the members of the Principal Committee, if you're talking about additions, what we saw in that order is the top political advisors to President Trump will be regular members of the meeting, which means Chief Strategist Steve Bannon, it means Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, and Counselor Kellyanne Conway. Because it's Monday morning, there's also going to be news on the F-35, and talk to us about what Trump has said today.
So Trump told reporters this morning at the White House that he's actually been able to save $600 million on the newest batch of F-35s they're negotiating, which is Lot 10. It's not really clear how these savings were found or where they come from. Some people have suggested that maybe we're buying more planes and there's a greater cost savings if we're buying more, or that we're potentially buying less and there's savings there. But that's kind of all been speculation in the Twitter sphere. We don't know. We haven't heard yet from either Lockheed or other members of the government about where these savings actually were found.
Okay, and I know you're reaching out to the contractors and the Joint Program Office because, as we've seen before, these types of claims need their own kind of extreme vetting. So we'll be doing that. Make sure to stay with WashingtonExaminer.com for developments throughout the week and sign up for our newsletter at dailyondefense.com.